Chapter 4. Inspector Bubble Wrap. The doorbell rings and we go to answer it. "Hello," says the man at the door. "My name is Inspector Bubble Wrap. I trust you received my letter." "Well, yes, we did," I say, "but—" "Excellent," says the inspector. "May I please see your building permit for this treehouse?" "Well, yes," I say, although when I say yes, I mean no. We don't actually have one, thanks to Terry. "No permit," says the inspector. "In that case, I'll have to do an inspection to see if your treehouse conforms to all the current building regulations and safety codes." "Building regulations," I say. "Safety codes," says Terry. "It's a mere formality," says the inspector. "Now, if you'll just be kind enough to let me in, I'll get started on my rhyme." "Your rhyme," I say. "Yes," says the inspector. "I always do my reports in rhyme. It's fun for me and helps pass the time." "Okay," says Terry. "That's fine by me. Please feel free to see our tree." "Well, thank you so very much, young man. I'll do my inspection as fast as I can. If I may, I'll start right here. Uh-oh, oh my, oh no, oh dear. This staircase of yours should have a railing, and no wheelchair ramp. That's a serious failing. And where are your fire escapes, your hose reels and sprinklers, your safety blankets and fire extinguishers? And I'd very much like to see, if I can, your in-case-of-emergency exit plan. These man-eating sharks should be swimming free, not kept as pets in a tank in a tree. We agree. And your bowling alley doesn't have any walls, which puts penguins at risk from falling balls. Or a ball could fall on a person's head, and that poor person could end up dead. Racing rocking horses around a track could result in injury to the neck or back. This X-ray room is in direct violation of the current health and safety radiation regulations. And what sort of stupid lame-brained twit would build themselves a quicksand pit, and not even have the sense or wit to put a warning sign on it? This swimming pool should have a fence. It really is just common sense. And chainsaw juggling is seriously dumb. You could easily lose a finger or a thumb, or an ear or a knee, or an elbow or a nose, or an arm or a leg, or a foot or some toes. Your trampoline has no net, I see, and it's up really high, near the top of the tree. But apart from those few things, I say, is everything else in our treehouse okay?" Inspector Bubble Wrap sighs and shakes his head. "All things considered, I'm sorry to say, there's no way I can issue a permit today. This treehouse of yours is an unsafe construction, and I must insist on its total destruction." "No, no, no." "A crew of wreckers are now on their way, so you'd better get going. There's no way you can stay. By 12 noon today, this place will be rubble. If you stay any longer, you'll be in big trouble. It will all be knocked down, level by level. Get out while you can, you remain at your peril." "Yikes," says Bill the postman. "I'm out of here." "Should we go too?" says Terry. "No way," I say. "This is our home." "But it's going to be demolished." "Not if I can help it," I say. "But how?" says Terry. "I don't know," I say. "Why don't we go and ask the 3 wise owls?" says Terry. "Of course," I say. "They're so wise they'll know exactly what to do." We jet chair up to the owl house on our jet-propelled office chairs and hover in front of the owls. "Oh, wise owls," says Terry, "what should we do to avoid the total demolition of our treehouse?" "Tick," says the first wise owl. "Tock," says the second wise owl. "Hoo," says the third wise owl. "Tick, tock, hoo." "Tick, tock, hoo," I say. "What does that mean?" Says Terry, frowning and repeating their words. "Tick, tock, hoo, tick, tock, hoo." "Do you think tick-tock means something to do with time?" I say. "Yes," says Terry, "and Who must mean Doctor Who. He's a time traveller, right?" "Yeah," I say, "but how does that help us?" "Don't you see," says Terry, "the wise owls are telling us we should travel back in time and get a permit for the treehouse." "That would be a great idea," I say, "if we had a time machine." "We do," says Terry. "I've built one on the level in the Once Upon a Time machine used to be on." "Fantastic," I say. "Let's go." We climb up to the time machine level. "So, we go in here," I say, heading for the door. "That's not the time machine," says Terry. "That's an egg timer I built. I hate it when my eggs get overboiled. The time machine is over here." "You put it in the bin?" I say. "No," says Terry. "It is the bin." "But why?" I say. "Well, I was reading The Time Machine by H.G. Wells," says Terry, "and I thought that time travel sounded like fun." "Yes, but why a wheelie bin?" I say. "Because it's all I had," says Terry. "It's not quite finished, but it should be fine to just go back a few years to get our building permit." "You go first, Andy," says Terry. I climb in and Terry climbs in after me and closes the lid. "It's really cramped in here," I say. "I thought time machines were supposed to be small on the outside and big on the inside." "This is the outer wall of the bin, really." Well, yeah, says Terry, they are, but it was only designed for one person. You were going to go time-travelling without me, I say. No, says Terry. Well, when I say no, I mean yes, but no, well, only a little bit. How do you drive this thing anyway, I say. Easy, says Terry. Set the chronometer for how many years back or forward you like to travel, and then push the blast-off button. All right, I say. I set the dial for 6.5 years back. That's just before we started building our treehouse. But at that moment, the lid opens. It's Inspector Bubble Wrap. It's no use hiding, you know, he says. The wrecking crew are on their way. They'll be here at exactly noon. Get out and pack your belongings, or prepare to meet your doom. My Hawaiian pizza, I was saving it for tomorrow. They're stomping their big feet all over it. No way, I say. We're staying right here. Oh, no, you're not, says the inspector. He leans in and tries to grab us. We crouch down as low as we can. I'd like to order Hawaiian pizza. The inspector leans in further, slips and falls on top of us. Ouch! Ugh! Oof! There's a weird whooshing sound. What's that noise, I say. I think the time machine has started, says Terry. The inspector must have bumped the blast-off button as he fell in. Time machine, says the inspector. Yes, says Terry. Hold on. We're going back in time. Swirl. Chapter 5. Prehistoric Pond Scum. We swirl for a long, long time. Just when I think I can't stand it any longer, the swirling stops. We're coming in for a landing, says Terry. Wham! The bin lands and we all fall out onto the ground. Wham! Have we gone back 6.5 years, I say. Terry looks into the bin and checks the chronometer. Oh no, he says. We've travelled 650 million years back in time. But I only set it for 6.5 years back, I say. The inspector must have knocked it when he fell in, says Terry. It's not my fault, says the inspector. That chronometer should have a safety guard on it, and a time machine blast-off button without an emergency override directly contravenes Regulation 3, subsection 4.5, paragraph 6, line 22 of the Time Travel Blast-Off Button Act. I didn't even know there was a Blast-Off Button Act, says Terry. Oh yes, says the inspector. It's right here in this book. Rules and Regulations of the World, Past, Present and Future. I never go anywhere without it. Hey Andy, says Terry, look at this puddle. It's full of pond scum, and one of the pond scum looks just like you. You're right, I say, and that one looks just like you. Who are you calling pond scum, pal, says Pond Scum Andy. You're not exactly an oil painting yourself. Leave him alone, says Pond Scum Terry. Wow, says Terry, talking pond scum. That's no ordinary pond scum, says the inspector. These are the world's earliest simple life forms. We're witnessing the beginnings of life on Earth. You got that right, pal, says Pond Scum Andy. But it could be the end for us any time soon. How come, says Terry. Because the only thing keeping our puddle from drying up is that overhanging rock ledge. I look up at the rock ledge Terry is standing on. I see what Pond Scum Andy means. It is the only shade around here, and the sun is really hot. That's too bad, I say. It's even worse for you, says Pond Scum Andy, because if we don't make it, you'll never exist at all. At least we've had a life, even if we have spent it just floating around in a puddle. I mean, it's better than nothing. What are you doing here? You're millions of years too early. On your way. What do you mean we won't exist, says Terry. If life forms like us get burned up, says Pond Scum Terry, then complicated life forms like you will never get the chance to evolve. Oh no, says Terry, looking really worried. Crack. Relax, I say, they'll probably make it. They've got shade. But not for long, says Terry. This rock ledge is cracking. I think it's about to break. You idiot, Terry, screamed the pond scum as a large piece of rock breaks off and crashes down into the puddle. That puddle should have a sun shelter over it, says Inspector Bubble Wrap. It contravenes Regulation 456, Section B, Part 2 of the Prehistoric Sun Shelter Act. I therefore declare this puddle illegal. What if we built a sun shelter, I say. You'd need a permit for that, says the inspector. Can you give us one, says Terry. Well, under the circumstances, and given that the future of life on Earth depends on it, says the inspector, I think I could rush the paperwork through. Great, I say. Let's get started. Pretty soon we've built the most amazing 65-story prehistoric pond scum puddle sun shelter you've ever seen. There you go, says Terry. That should keep you all sun safe for the next 300 million years or so. Thanks, Terry says. Terry, says Pond Scum Terry. You're the best. No, Andy is the best, says Pond Scum Andy. That's where you're wrong, says Pond Scum Terry, because Terry is the best. You're the one who's wrong, says Pond Scum Andy, because you don't know what you're talking about. Andy is the best. No contest. Quiet, I'm trying to sleep. Terry, Terry, Terry. Andy, Andy, Andy. Scum. Do you mind? I'm trying to mutate here. Terry, Terry, Andy, Andy. Keep it down, I'm getting my DNA in a knot. The pond scum continue shouting at each other. Terry, Andy, Terry, Andy. Then things really get out of control. Splash, splot. Stop picking on my slime buddy. Ouch, who threw that slime? Splat, sploosh. It was slime all. Take that, globular. Who threw that, scumball? Ouch, was that you, Terry? Gob. Let's leave them to it, I say. We better be getting back to the future before this wheelie bin melts in the heat. It's pretty soft already. Grumble, grumble. Leaking ponds. Melting wheelie bin. I hope our prehistoric pond scum ancestors make it, says Terry. So do I say. But if they don't and we end up not existing, it'll be all your fault. But we do exist, says the inspector, so they must have made it. Yeah, I say, thanks to me and my great idea about building a pond scum sun shelter. And thanks to me for helping build it, says Terry. And thanks to me for issuing the permit, says the inspector. Speaking of permits, I say, we'd better be getting to that permit office to apply for our building permit so the treehouse doesn't have to be demolished. Sure thing, Andy, says Terry. I've set the chronometer for 6.5 years before we left. Hold on, everybody! Swirl! Chapter 6. Dancing with Dinosaurs. There's a loud splash and we look out to find ourselves floating in the middle of a vast grey ocean. Well, that's just great, I say. Right time, wrong place. Actually, I think you'll find it's the wrong time as well, says Terry. We've travelled to 65 million years ago. Oh dear, says the inspector. 65 million years ago. That's when a giant asteroid smashed into Earth and killed off all the dinosaurs. We are in one of the unsafest times ever in the Earth's history. Maybe the asteroid has already hit, says Terry. I can't see any dinosaurs, can you? Nah, I say, but I'd really like to. Let's paddle to shore and see if we can find any. We paddle as fast as we can, but when we get to shore, all we can see is a bunch of little monkey-like animals playing in a group. Ah, says the inspector, they look like Plesiodapis tricuspidans. Are they dinosaurs, says Terry. No, says the inspector, they're some of the earliest mammals to live on Earth. They're so cute, says Terry. We should take one back for Jill. That's not a good idea, says the inspector. They need to stay here so they can evolve into the ancestor of apes, monkeys and humans. Monkeys, says Terry. I hate monkeys. Me too, I say, but that doesn't mean we don't share a common ancestor with them. Speak for yourself, says Terry. I don't. I wouldn't be so sure about that, Terry, I say, because that one looks a little bit like you. You're right, says Terry, and that one looks a lot like you. Suddenly we hear thunderous stomping and snorting noises. The Plesiodapis stop playing and look around in alarm. A dinosaur with an enormous nose bursts through the undergrowth and snorts at them. Yikes, I say, that dinosaur has the biggest nose I've ever seen. It's a big nososaur, says the inspector, a dinosaur that is in direct contravention of the World Health Organization's suggested guidelines for a healthy nose-to-body ratio. It's famous for its bad temper. The safest way to behave around one is to be very quiet and try not to be noticed. It reminds me of someone, says Terry, but I can't think who. This is bad, says the inspector. If the dinosaurs are still around, that means the asteroid that wiped them out hasn't hit yet. Cool, I say. We might get to see an asteroid. If you do, it will probably be the last thing you ever see, says the inspector. Asteroids are very dangerous, you know, even more dangerous than big nososaurs. Hey, says Terry, yells Terry at the big nososaur advances on the Plesiodapis. Get away from them, you big bully. At the sound of Terry's voice, the big nososaur turns towards us. It stares and roars. Good one, Terry, I say, backing away. Yeah, good one, Terry, says the inspector. The big nososaur roars again and paws the ground. He looks just like Kevin, the mechanical bull, when he gets mad, says Terry. I think it's getting ready to charge. If only we had a brightly coloured cape, I say. Maybe we could distract it. A brightly coloured safety vest might work, says Terry. Don't be stupid, I say. Where are we going to get a brightly coloured safety vest from? From the inspector, says Terry. Well, I'm not sure about that, says the inspector. Regulation 6 of the Brightly Coloured Safety Vest Act states that a building permit inspector should wear a brightly coloured safety vest at all times. But it's 65 million years before that law was even invented, I say. So technically, you won't be breaking it. Says the inspector. Technically, you might be right, and I guess you will be using it in the interests of safety. He hands me the vest. I hold the vest out to the side, matador style, and wave it at the big nososaur. It snorts in rage, lowers its massive nose, and charges at me. I spin at the last moment, and it rushes past. Olé, I say. It turns and charges again. Once more, I step aside. Olé, olé, I say. Each time it runs at me and misses, it gets madder, and its nose gets bigger and redder. Watch out, says Terry. I think it's going to blow. What's that, I say. It's going to blow its nose. No, says Terry. Its nose is going to explode. Why? An explosion that big could wipe out all life on Earth, says the inspector. Could it be possible that this is how the dinosaurs disappeared? Who cares, I say. It's going to be how we disappear if we don't take cover. The Plesiodapis that looks like Terry starts biting the leg of his trousers. Hey, says Terry, quit that. Chomp. Then the one who looks like me starts tugging at my trousers. What's wrong with you stupid things, I say. Can't you see we've got a serious problem here? I think they're trying to help us, says the inspector, who has one tugging at his trousers as well. They're pulling us in the direction of that burrow. He's right, says Terry, and we don't have a moment to lose. I've never seen a nose so ready to blow. We quickly follow the Plesiodapis to their burrow. Terry stops and bends over. What are you doing, I say. I'm just saving a poor little helpless ant, he says. Well, hurry up, I say. Terry scoops up the ant and puts it in his pocket. The entrance to the burrow is small, but with a bit of pushing and shoving, we all manage to get safely inside. Cool burrow, says Terry. And very safe, says the inspector. You can't beat a good underground bunker, and I see we have food supplies for some time. What sort of food, says Terry. Looks like dragonflies, fern fronds, and a primitive form of marshmallow. Prehistoric marshmallows, says Terry, shoving a handful into his mouth, and then immediately spitting them out. That's not marshmallow, that's fungus. What do you think marshmallows are made of, says the inspector. Blah! But before Terry can register the full horror of what the inspector has just said, there is a huge explosion above us. We emerge from the burrow. There's an enormous smoking crater where the big nososaur had been. I say, let's get out of here. But what about the Plesiodapis, says Terry. They saved our lives. And we saved theirs, I say. Fair trade. But the prehistoric world is so dangerous, says Terry. Can't we take them with us? No. I already explained that, says the inspector. If we took them with us, they wouldn't evolve and we wouldn't be able to exist. But just to be on the safe side, and if it makes you feel better, I'll give them all a bit of extra protection. The inspector gets out his roll of bubble wrap and makes little bubble wrap suits for all the Plesiodapis. There, he says when he's finished. That should keep them out of trouble for the next 65 million years or so. I've made a few adjustments to the chronometer, says Terry, and I'm certain that this time we will arrive at the building permit office 6.5 years before we built our treehouse. I hope you're right, says the inspector, as we climb into the bin and close the lid. Me too, I say. I think I've had enough history for one day. OK, says Terry. Here we go. Swell. And that is where we will leave part 2 of the 65-story treehouse. I'll be back soon with the next part of this fantastic story and loads more stories and videos coming your way very soon. If you'd like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.